that brings us again to the whole issue of how can Christians and the Jews here in America cooperate and find common cause, and what are some of those issues, those specific issues that we might arrive at, say, hey, here are 3, 4, 5 causes that we can say, even though we disagree on many things, but let's work on these issues and let's present a common front. Let's get to know each other better. And let's work specifically on these issues.
Well,
any thoughts occurred to you in that sense?
There are a few things. I mean, I hope that and I believe in my heart that the Christians are the allies of Jews when it comes to Israel. I know that Bebe Netanyahu is coming here, next week, and he now can depend upon the Christian evangelical community in America to give him strength to defend this little tiny Jewish state. So I work with Christians and Jews United for Israel, as you do, and we are already working all the time together to press for the understanding and to kind of fight against the mainstream media, unfair portrayal of Israel, and so we have that.
Any specific ways? How could we take that support? How could we express ourselves more effectively on support of Israel? What kinds of...
That there are specific groups that do this. Jews and Christians marching together. There is Christians and Jews United for Israel that is in Boston, and we're growing and growing and growing. And in fact, I bring my Jewish friends to these meetings, and they're stunned, surprised, and happy, overjoyed to see so many Christians. There's more Christians there than Jews. Sometimes I have 30 to 70%, 30%. So I think joining up those groups. I know it would be good if we had in the Spanish-speaking press some more pro-Israel articles that we could do, some interviews on television with Spanish-speaking and otherwise pro-Israel speakers would be great to do. The other issue I think that we're going to finally be confronting, whether we want to or not, is the radicalization of America's historically moderate Muslim community. Right here in Boston, there's a $16 million mosque, not too far from here, that was funded by Saudis. The Saudis do not build moderate mosques. They build only radical mosques. The people who run that mosque, it's called the Muslim American Society, has been identified...
A very innocuous name, by the way, Muslim American Society. Who can object to that?
Right. Have been identified by federal authorities as a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the essential body in the world that foments jihad and the radicalization of the Muslim community. They have had people who come here to Boston who are as speakers to the Muslim community, and we have it on film, and I can give you the film, who have said in the past, Christianity is theological filth. There was no Holocaust. The Jews are out to destroy us. The Jews are the sons of monkeys and pigs.
This is in the facilities of the mosque itself?
These were talks that we have on film of people who they later invited here. We don't have the films of what they said when they were here, but this is what these are the kinds of people that they have invited. They had on their website, how to beat your wife. You know how to beat your... Put a whip on the mantelpiece in the living room so she could see it, so she will know not to displease you. Now they took that down, but we have the screenshot of it. I'm happy to give it to you. How to beat your wife. They have had...
This website was the website
of that mosque.
Of that mosque, the mosque here in Boston.
And they were embarrassed when we pointed out about the how to beat your wife, and so they took it off, but I have this. You can capture the website. They were funded, one of the trustees of the mosque, that is the biggest mosque in the Northeast, that is bigger than the biggest mosque in New York City.
It's a huge presence, you can't miss it.
Okay. One of the trustees is named Yusuf Qaradawi. Yusuf Qaradawi is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. He just led prayers in Cairo that says we're going to kill the Jews down to the very last one. Call for genocide of the Jews. Okay. He's in Cairo where they are oppressing and beating and murdering and running over the heads of Christians with tanks. This is the guy who was a trustee for 9 years on legal documents of this mosque. Everybody's afraid to talk about this mosque. They sued us when we talked about this mosque for defamation. So this is a problem that's happening all across America.
Now, the city of Boston and the mayor of Boston were kind of implicated in that big controversy because apparently the city of Boston gave some significant preferences for the building of that mosque.
Well,
and
look,
so that was a big issue, I remember, very controversial.
You know, every time you fill up your car, you're giving money to the Saudis, right? So they don't need a whole lot more of our money. And yet here he took this nice piece of land in Roxbury, which the black community thought it was going to be theirs, and he gave it to the Saudi-controlled board of trustees of this mosque for practically nothing. You know, I mean, it was a big, $100-something thousand was worth a couple of $1 million. And, you know, for him and for many mayors and for many politicians, the only way they see the issue is this must be just like any other minority community. And if we're against them, we're racist. We're bigots. We don't want to be racist and bigots. So, and that's because the media hides everything. The Boston Globe, we went to the Boston Globe. We showed them all the documents that we had. In the lawsuit, we captured in the discovery process 40 boxes of their internal emails, their bank records. We showed them who built the mosque is tied to terrorists, tied to people who were tied to terrorists, tied to people who taught hatred. And the Globe, again, doesn't want to be called bigoted, doesn't want to be called wants to treat it as like this is in the 1950s and 60s and they're the blacks. Yeah,
and one of the frustrating things is that even there was controversy within the Jewish community because I think there are some quote-unquote enlightened elements of the Jewish community that really were offended by the actions of people like you and other more conservative Jews who saw that other dimension of this mosque effort, and they felt we don't want to be
This is just another example of the Jewish community divide. This was a very, very hotly contested thing inside my own community. Major people in the community were doing dialogue with the Muslim community, and they were being played like violins. They were being played like violins. In fact, the fellow who was the Muslim dialogue chief was schmoozing with the Jewish rabbis and how nice, we're all Abrahamic, you know, you have kosher, we have, you know, what we do with, there's so many things that we have in common. And then the Jews found out that this fellow Walid Fatahi, a very wealthy man who contributed millions to the mosque, was writing in Arabic papers, in Arabic. Jews are the sons of monkeys and pigs, or some such thing, that, you know, they're the scourge of the earth, they're the rapists of the sons of Allah. So the Jews went to him and they said, well, why did you write this if you're trying to embrace us? And, you know, well, it's not true, it never happened. And then the Jews said, but it did happen. They got Arabic translators from Harvard and Yale, and they said, but it's really true what we say he wrote. Well, no, it's a bad translation. No, but it's not a bad translation. And then finally they said, well, he didn't mean all the Jews. So the Jews were tricked. Now we've convinced the leadership of the Jewish community through the documentation to break off that dialogue, and they've broken it off. But there are, as you say, very radical, liberal, progressive rabbis who wrote a letter against me. 70 progressive rabbis wrote a letter against me. It was like a fatwa. It was a Jewish fatwa, first time ever.